Does that help?
Now it's an error occurred.
Try refreshing it because it is streaming now. Does that help? Okay. Let me know when you see me on screen again.
Okay.
And could you turn it down a little bit? Should see me on screen with glasses in a few seconds. Do you see that? Do you see anything?
Just the welcome. Now I see.
Now you see me. Okay. Can you hear me? You hear me? Do you hear me? Could you turn it down a little bit? Okay. You got everything? All right. I'm glad I thanked the producers because it was important for them to say, we can't hear you, we can't hear you, we can't see you, even though we look like we were broadcasting. So, with that said, again, we look like we're up on YouTube, we're up on our website, we're up every place that I know we're up. And I want to welcome you again, those of you that may have missed the welcome. I want to thank those people again, the ministers that provide the affirmation of truth, Brave Monk, Charles, the producers, Lou and Kendra. Let you know again, we'll be on YouTube after the talk. We are working to do something different than that, but right now we'll be on YouTube. And we have a new mailing address that you may have seen, which is 1448 East 52nd Street, Suite 132, that's 60615, which allows people to support this ministry either with our online app, on our website, or either going to Unity Chicago South on the Cash App, sending in a contribution or support, or again, mailing it in to that address, which we'll show again. And we have also got a new audio system. And the hope is that those intermittent interruptions that you had in the past, that we've eliminated that with our new audio system. So those are some of the updates. We want to also let you know, those folks that want to contact us during the course of the week, our text line is open all week long. That text line is 773-876-8998. You'll see that number again when on the contact us. And then our final announcement for this morning is the fact that we are working on a campaign, and I mentioned it last week and kind of teased you a little bit. So I want to give you a little more information about, what it is, what the focus of it is. It is a peace campaign, and we feel that it's a very unique peace campaign. It's something that has not been tried before. It models itself after a very successful program that worked nationwide in various cities. So very excited about introducing that and bringing this new concept for peace. It looks like the rollout is probably around July 4th of July, around that week. You get the significance there, independence and peace all going on at the same time. Possibly a little bit before that, but it looks like right now it's July 4th, and that is a peace campaign, and you'll get more about that in the coming weeks. Today's affirmation of truth is by Reverend Dr. Stephanie Wilson Coleman, another awesome affirmation of truth. She and Reverend Nick they just light it up when they do the affirmation of truth. They really put their heart in it. You know it's coming from a deep place within them. So I want you to sit back and relax right now, get in that quiet state, move into a place where you release everything that's gone on before this moment, everything that's gone on before this moment, and move into the moment and go through this beautiful, beautiful affirmation of truth from Reverend Dr. Stephanie Wilson Coleman.
As you listen to the sound of my voice, Gently close your eyes, placing your hands in a comfortable position, relaxing more and more with each breath. Allow each breath to guide you deeper and deeper into your imagination. See yourself standing in the midst of a field that is overflowing with your favorite flowers and plants. With each breath, you feel the true magnificent beauty that surrounds you. Imagine the trees standing tall and saluting the magnificent presence of God that abides in you. Saluting the greatness placed within you by this infinite spirit. As you inhale, the sweet fragrance in each flower bathes your senses and soothes your soul. The sun's rays and the moonlight serve as beams of light to illumine your path, giving you the answers to all of your questions. In this moment, you are at one. In this moment, you are the one. Inhale and exhale. With the next set of inhalations and exhalations, open your eyes to return to this present moment, allowing the feeling of wholeness to remain in your mind and your soul. Know that you are guided by the same intelligence and inspired by the same imagination which scatters the moonbeams across the waves and holds the forces of nature in its grasp. Imagination is the wings of manifestation. Namaste.
Wow, that really sets the stage for today's introduction to the power of the month, which is imagination. And those of you that received the email, if you're not getting our emails, you might want to reach out to us either by text or email us through the contact number and let us know about your email so we can keep you informed of what we're doing, especially with this peace campaign coming forward. There's a book called Working with the Law, and it starts with, in the early part of the book, it says something like this, and I want to kind of quote it. It says, "The question upmost in the world of thought today is whether a person has the capacity, equipment, and power to control their lives. Whether we can be what we want to be, or whether we are just a drop in the great ocean of life. Millions are affected by unemployment, poverty, and want." Now, it would seem almost like Raymond Hollywell took that right out of the events of today, of the past 3-4 months. But actually, it was copyrighted back in 1964. He goes on to say, that every architect and builder follows the same plan, whether they are building or planning a house, a bridge, an institution, or their own life. Key here. Every person is their own designer and builder, like the Creator. They make their creation within before they materialize it on the outside. They make their creation within before they materialize it on the outside. And that within is where the imagination is in full bloom. And then he goes on to close it with this. All fears of sickness, poverty, and old age are impressions, ideas, and mental pictures long before they become painful realities. And the key here is all fears. Okay, sometimes that's misinterpreted, and it says, people think that, well, I won't get sick if I don't imagine being sick, and I won't grow old if I don't imagine growing old. But he's saying, and very clearly here, he's saying the fear of whatever it might be, fill in the blank, that fear of creates an image within us, and that image within us comes to bear way before it manifests in the outer. Powerful. Every idea and mental picture must produce after its own kind, whether the picture is good or bad. That fear, good or bad, that we visualize about whatever it is, fill in the blank, must materialize in our lives, meaning it must come to bear, it must come into a reality for us. June is the month that's focused on imagination, and we see it in action all around us. Demands for reform of the justice system, demands for reform of the economic system. For us, though, imagination is a conscious effort that happens after being fed a stimuli or inspiration. And it can be internal or it can be external. So let's understand imagination is a conscious effort. Now, on the other hand, there's something that's called dreams, and some of us have dreams. And it's also something that can be influenced or inspired, but they usually are unconscious events. Imagination usually happens in a conscious state, while dreams usually occur in a state of sleep. You say, wow. If you're dreaming, we're talking about a state of sleep, whether that's physical sleep or whether that's sleep to a reality. And when you're using your imagination, you're very conscious and aware of what you're doing and what your expectations are of the outcome of using your imagination. Now I want to get into scripture a little bit, just to talk about dreams. In the Old Testament of the Hebrew Bible and a couple of places in the New Testament, you see dreams. You see it in Samuel's. You see it in Acts, but it's really referring to what Joel's experience was. You see it in Daniel. You see it in Ecclesiastics. You see it in Genesis. You see it in Jeremiah. You see it in Matthew, but it's really about Joseph's dreams and Joseph's experience with dreams. You see it in Number and Zechariah and Deuteronomy and Isaiah and Job. You see it quite a bit in the Old Testament, you can understand, but you see it minimal mentions of dreams in the New Testament and none for the master teacher Jesus. Jesus didn't talk about dreams. It didn't talk about the dreams of Jesus. Dreams are, you are asleep. You're not conscious. Okay? Now, let's talk about this imagination a little further. Let's get involved in the steps of imagination, the steps to create the imagination, to create the things that you want on the inside before they materialize out here. Inspired, conscious effort after being fed an internal or external stimulus. Conscious and inspired. Conscious and inspired. It's being awake. Now, in Mark, we have a scripture that says, "Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you will have received it, and it will be yours." In Luke it tells us, "For nothing will be impossible for God." And then in Mark it says, "And Jesus said to them, if you can, all things are possible for one who believes." For many, these scriptures are really dreams. That's how many people classify. These are dreams. I dream of this freedom. I dream of God delivering me. I dream of. But Jesus treated them a little bit different. He treated them in much more than dreams. Remember, dreams are mentioned quite a bit in the Old Testament, Hebrew Bible, but very little in the New Testament, and not at all about Jesus dreaming. So what was Jesus doing if Jesus wasn't dreaming? Well, we know that Jesus was awake, for one thing, because if you're dreaming, you are somewhat asleep. See, we can treat them as more than dreams also, those scriptures. And we could take any scripture that we want. We're just picking out those three. We happen to pick out those three today. We're going to use some tools to help us understand a little bit deeper what these scriptures can do for us when we see them the way that Jesus attempted to share them with the people of his time. You see, there's something called to visualize, and to visualize means to form a mental picture or image. To visualize means to form a mental picture or image. And this image is so that the imagination has something to work on, so the imagination can see what it needs to produce, you see. And we should understand that when we visualize, what we're really doing is that we're setting a goal up in the imagination, within the imagination, to make it visible in our lives. And then there's something called visualization. Now, visualization is used to access the visualized mental image that we have formed. So we create an image through visualizing, and then we go back and retrieve that image and go over it again and again and again through visualization. So now we have through visualize and then visualization. And then I want to get a little bit into the science that's behind it. It says here in the psychological practice, visualization is often used to mentally rehearse an action to bring one into a state of relaxation. So we use this mental rehearsal to bring forth that which it is we want. So we visualize, we then use visualization to continue to recall it into our lives. Yes. There's a doctor in D.C. that says this about visualization. She says, a vision is not just a picture of what could be. It's not a dream. It is an appeal to our higher selves to call to become something more. She says that visualization is a means of control of an uncontrollable situation. So let's hold that. A vision that we create, this vision that we create, this image that we create is to become more than we are at this moment right now. And as we continue to use visualization to recall it and recall it and recall it, recall it, we're continuing to move ourselves up and up into a higher state. As Honeywell told us before, good or bad, it's going to manifest. So we continue this good, this higher state that we want. We continue to see it, right? so that it can materialize in our lives. Okay? It's not a dream. Now let's go back and examine those scriptures one more time. Let's go back to Mark first. It says, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask, have I been asking, verbally asking God to do? Or have we really been working the formula that has been given to us, which says that we should be not asking verbally, but asking by forming the mental picture, the mental image, to plant in the imagination, prayer, understanding that prayer is our imagination of what we could become beyond the words. And it goes on to say, believe that you have received it. So you visualize, you imagine that you are already in possession of whatever it is. You are already in the possession of whatever it is. Now remember, the scripture is not telling you, well, you have to consider the fact of where you are right now, and then you kind of have to overcome it. It says, hey, you have to ask, you have to create the picture. You have to know that the picture, the law says that the picture must come forth, whether it's good or bad. It must manifest in your life. And that's how you move forward with holding on to the vision and allowing the law to bring the vision forward. Wow. See, we have to use the tools within the imagination to create the picture of what could be so we can appeal to our higher selves. What is that saying? We understand what's happening now. You are not creating this new dynamic in our life. The new dynamic in our life comes from that spiritual connection, that thing many of us call God, that divine presence, and we are connecting with it through the use of imagination, and we're influencing the imagination through the use of visualization and visioning. Step by step by step. So if I've been just praying, God, please, God, please, God, please, have I given a picture to my higher self of what it is I really want? Question. Only you can answer that. Let's go on to the Luke scripture. It says, for nothing that we can visualize, nothing that we can visualize will be, if we can visualize it and then we are visioning, right? Visualization, it's not impossible to our higher self. So if I'm talking about me now. I hope some of you already, you're saying, hey, I could teach this lesson myself. I could give you this myself. I'm saying, great. But for me right now, I'm saying that, hey, anything that I haven't achieved, I have to go back and ask myself, did I create a picture for my higher self to deliver that to me in my life based on the fact that the law says whatever I hold, whatever image I create, and then continue to repeat seeing it, experiencing it as it's here right now, then that must manifest in my life. Have I done that with the things that I say that I want? Have I done that? Now, my answer is I don't think so. Because the law says that it must materialize, and so some of those things that I thought that I said that I wanted, I thought that I said that I wanted, right? Must have not been taken through the formula so they could materialize in my life. I was awake, but I was dreaming. I was awake, but I was dreaming. I was not using my imagination. For if I was, the law says that it must come into my life in one form or another. And finally, I want to go back to Mark, and this is 9:23. He said, well, you didn't give me all the scripture numbers, I know. But I'm telling you what they say so you can look it up. And this one says, and Jesus said to him, if you can. So what, if I can what? If I can what? If I can what? If I could just hold on, if I can't. if you can form the vision, if I can form the vision, all things are possible if I see it. If I see it, if I see it, then I believe it. See, all things are possible for one who believes, for one who sees the vision that they've created. Wow. Wow. Mercy. So let's take that a step further. It says, see it to make it so. Who believes, see it to make it so. I believe it to the point that I can see it already, and it's seeing it before it actually manifests out here that makes all the difference. Now, Neville gives us a little bit about what we can do and how we can approach this who believes. Neville tells us that believing and using the imagination to the fullest means that we have to see it, we have to smell it, we have to taste it, we have to be in it already. Not going to it, but to be in it already. So whatever that vision is, find a way to put yourself in that already, and then when you bring it back, you do your visualizing. When you bring it back, always see yourself in it, and you are impressing the imagination, and the imagination, the law of the imagination says, I must bring it forward. I must bring it into material being. I must make it real. A New Thought writer tells us that the highest and best work of the imagination is the marvelous transformation that works in character. Imagine that you are one with the principle of good, and you will become truly good. To imagine yourself perfect, fix the idea of perfection in the invisible mind substance, and the mind force at once begins to work on bringing forth the perfection. Whoa, what? This author is telling us that as we see ourselves different, as we vision ourselves different, as we see ourselves in a different form, and as we plant that form into the imagination by continually seeing that every time we pray, ask, meditate, get quiet, whatever it is, continue to bring it back to the point that the imagination grabs hold of it and says, okay, I got to do this. I got to bring it forward. And so whatever it is that we might lack in our lives, that we don't see in our lives, let us go back and check the steps that it takes to create it. So have we created, have we formed that image of total health, of prosperity, of success, whatever it might be, of peace? Have we formed that to the point that we become that, right? We become that, and as we become it, it materializes. Now, what do you mean by that? See, I have to become peace. I have to become success. I have to become health. I have to become that so it can express. Because what I am now is what is expressing out here. And what this author is telling us is as we change the image of ourselves and of our lives, that image of ourselves and of our lives must manifest. Must manifest. As we close, I want to recap what Halliwell said, an important part of what he said earlier. All fears of sickness, poverty, and old age are impressions, ideas, and mental pictures long before they materialize in the outer. So where do we attack them to change them? Where they are being created. The impressions we are giving the conscious mind, that we're planting in the subconscious. That's where we address them. Every idea and mental picture must produce after its own kind, whether the picture is good or bad. as you go forth this week, look around you. Look at what these protesters, look around you at what the demonstrators are saying. They're saying, this must express these 8 points. And you can go to some of the websites and see the 8 points that some of the organizations are espousing now. They must come forward. Those ideas were in them already. They didn't just pop up with them. They had been there. And finally, you see not just in one city, you see it all over the country, all over the world, that finally the race consciousness has changed to a point that they're saying, this has to express. We must have this. We are at a point that it must come forth. Well, that's the same power that each and every one of us has in our own lives. We're not just a drop in the ocean, as Honeywell says that we could see ourselves. We are dynamos. We have the power of the imagination. Now, if we just learn and practice the proper use of it, how to use it, what a wonderful world this could be. Well, this is Reverend R. Ken saying I appreciate so much you being here, sharing today. The challenges that we had earlier were totally beyond our capacity and our control, and I'm very, very excited about that. And you say, well, why would you be excited about such a thing? Because that means that we've done a lot of work to make things right. It means that we've imagined a perfect stream, live stream. And even though there were issues outside of us, the things that we had to do, the energy that we had to put in came forth properly. And that's something to go forth with yourselves. To remember that if you just do what you're supposed to do, the outside stuff will take care of itself eventually. But it's so important to do what you have to do. Join us on YouTube for After the Talk. We'll be over there in a few minutes. Those of you that were there last week, we had an inspiring conversation, or some inspiring conversation, let me say, because it went in some different directions. I appreciate you guys that did join me. Hopefully more of you will join me today, and just keep on imagining Unity of Chicago Spiritual Community Beyond Walls being as great as the image that you can create in your mind. And with that, don't leave yourself out. Make sure you imagine yourself into your full greatness. We'll see you in a few. Health and wellness to each and every one of you, and more than that, blessings and bliss.